the swarm category, you will see One Hive TV. So if you have questions, if you have a news that you would like to share, please head up to the One Hive TV and we will read it. So a few minutes and then we will start.
All right, GM, everybody again. Thanks, Edu. Yeah, we're going to try to get some tunes. We'll get like one tune up here just to give us a little bit of time, let people trickle in. We're going with the royalty-free tunes today to make sure we're totally above board. So if anybody's got some great suggestions for royalty-free music, head over to the chat that Edu just mentioned in One Hive TV, just above the radio stage that you are on in the Discord. Feel free to share there, or if you're on either YouTube or Twitch, GM to everybody there as well. Feel free to drop, ideally, if you have like a Spotify link or something along those lines that's royalty free. We'd love to build an awesome deck of tunes to like spin every week. Last couple of weeks we have had some of my faves, but they are not royalty free. So we need to we need to make sure we are not getting shadow banned and the like on YouTube, of course. So again, open or sort of Creative Commons or otherwise royalty-free music links. Feel free to share. We're going to put one up here to get started, just one tune, and then we'll begin. GM to everybody. You know, scratch that, folks. We're going to go ahead and get rolling this morning. GM to everybody here in the Discord. Glad you decided to join us this Monday morning. We'll get started with the headlines here in a moment. GM to everybody on YouTube and Twitch as well. As a reminder, if you are looking to follow along with some visuals, head over to YouTube or our Twitch page. We'll drop links to those both in the general chat and in the One Hive TV chat channel. GM to everybody. Edu, how are you doing this wonderful Monday morning?
It is quite a sunny day here in Barcelona, CET time zone. So it's really nice because it's the first week of spring over here in Europe. So it's a sunny day in Barcelona. And the weather has been quite nice after a few days of cloudy and not so good weather. So it's highly appreciated. And I have a nice view from my balcony while I'm talking here. So nice. It was a good weekend. How about yours?
It was good, man. Wasn't too bad here. Getting a little colder than I'd hoped, seeing as spring, I guess, should be here, like, now. So, it got a little colder, but it's not bad outside. It's good, and you can tell the warm weather's just around the corner. So it's good news here on sort of like east coast of the U.S. Yeah, man. Well, you want to get rolling today? What do you think? It's Ave at the top? Yes, is that correct?
Sure. We can start with Ave. If you want to share with the folks just a little bit before we start with the headlines about what is the schedule for this week in One Hive TV so people can know a little bit about it.
Absolutely. We're going to try to get a slide up sort of in the transition at the top of the hour as well to remind folks. We got a lot of cool stuff going on in the One Hive TV broadcast, which is really intended to be a live stream that's going to build more and more content. So it's like kind of CNN for DAOs, as it were, right? We got almost, let's see here, we got 2 weekly shows. So one on Monday, one on Wednesday, happening every week. So if you're in the audience here, you are in the first show of the week that we have every Monday. And then Wednesday, a little bit later in the day, 3 p.m. Eastern, which I think right now is 3 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. It is 7 p.m. UTC, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, I do. But Wednesday we also have a weekly show that focuses on NFTs and like crypto gaming, and that's hosted by Dosh and Solar, and that is again a weekly program. If you're interested in that side of crypto, definitely check that out. They got guests on a weekly basis as well, and we got some bi-weekly. We have now 3 shows bi-weekly, 2 of which are on Tuesdays, and they rotate. So essentially Tuesday there is a weekly show of one kind or another, and then we have a bi-weekly show on. It's really a radio show on Thursdays bi-weekly. So if you're interested in checking this out, I had not seen this graphic until it went out because here at One Hive we DAO it full time, and if you go to the One Hive org Twitter page, you will see. I'll see if I can bring it over in just a second. You will see this tweet. Give me just a second. Got. If you're looking on the share screen on either YouTube or Twitch, you'll see this graphic on screen. I think it's really cool. I imagine Rohek had something to do with this design. If so, big ups to you, brother. We got the schedule really here. There's a good summation of the shows that we have going on. So going from the top to the bottom, this is DAO News today. On Tuesdays bi-weekly, we have Paul 2 Web 3. Basically, Paul 2 is going to come on and do some awesome stuff on a live stream bi-weekly. Also on Tuesdays, I would add to this list is Late Night with Billy Jitsu. This is something because he is such a shadowy super coder indeed. We keep it on the DL until now, and so I'm telling you now, and we're going to make sure this is we're getting some marketing love for this as well. This is later on Tuesdays, at least relative to sort of Eastern time. NFT Gaming is the Wednesday show we mentioned, and then we do also have the bi-weekly show. It's basically a LATAM, Spanglish language and music listening party bi-weekly on Thursdays. So yeah, the show is growing, Edu, and we have a lot of cool stuff here that people can mark their calendars for.
That is correct, and we have a bunch of more people joining here today. So welcome everyone. We are about to start headlines, and as it happens every week, the headlines consist on a Monday stream where we basically talk about what's going on the DAO space and some DeFi space also. And we are using a snapshot as the main source of truth for this news. So shall we start with Abe?
Let's do it.
So basically, Aave has this proposal that's called should 6 total risk parameters across 5 Aave V2 assets be updated? It's an open question in the proposal. And this proposal was started. This proposal started on March 18, and it ended 5 days ago in March 23rd. And it had 3 options: a J, an abstain, and a nay. A yes and an abstain, and a no. And basically, they explain on this proposal is that it's a batch update. It's a batch update of risk parameters to align with the moderate risk level chosen by the Aave community. And this seeks to maintain the overall risk tolerance of the protocol while also making risk trade-off between specific assets. The parameter recommendations are basically driven by an optimization function that balances 3 core metrics: insolvencies, liquidations, and borrow usage. And their agent-based simulation use a wide array of varied input data that changes on a daily basis, included but not limited to asset volatility, asset correlations, asset collateral, usage, DX, CX, liquidity, trading volume, expected market impact of trades, and liquidator behavior. And this proposal is a little bit technical for my taste, if I may say so. And this proposal passed with a J with 2.2K Aave on it, a 91% approval, and a total amount of 9,000 votes. I think this is one of the most voted things we have seen here, Duels, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's been a few over 1,000, but I don't remember anything. I don't remember seeing a 2 followed by 3 digits. So this is like much more than anything we've seen recently for sure.
Yeah. So they also explain that the community should use the Gauntlet Risk Dashboard to better understand the updated parameter suggestions and general market risk in Aave V2. Value at this risk dashboard represents 90% percentile insolvency value that occurs from simulations where they run over a range of volatilities to approximate a tail event. And I mean, this is a very detailed, at least to my knowledge, it's a very detailed proposal that has a lot of graphics and explanations. And it's interesting because it's not, I mean, it's not a simple thing to update parameters across a protocol. So, and by the way, if you are not aware, the 6 parameters that are gonna change are LTV, liquidation threshold, liquidation bonus. That's this one of the parameters that are gonna adjust on these Aave2 assets. What do you think about it, Tibbles?
Yeah, man, I think it's you look again at the results and the outcome, and so it's good to see that you have a lot of, apparently, again, we could sort of dig in on the numbers. As in crypto, not all numbers are as they seem, or there's like
Yeah.
chicanery sometimes. But in this case, I don't think there's any reason for that to have like happened. And given the amount of participation and the lack of opposition, I mean, there's some abstention, but clear support in favor of this. I see this type of thing more as like probably like a regular exercise. I mean, the folks that are really hands-on in a protocol like Aave, this is like a policy decision, right? And policies need to be updated according to market conditions and like data that they're collecting. So it's an interesting update here. It is, I find, even just in the headline, the part that jumps out is there's these like 2 variables that are folded into this policy update. So you have there's 6 parameters that they're tweaking, but also across 5 V2 assets. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was different chains. I apologize. The headline here is parameter against different assets, V2 assets. Okay, I thought this was across multiple chains like simultaneously. So I sort of misread the headline there, but it's again, I think that this is something you can expect to see throughout the year. And obviously the like first quarter is almost over, right? So I think that provides the necessary context for understanding why these changes might be necessary to these different parameters, right? And in general, it seems like, again, folks that are better, it'd be good to have like Monstro on to chat up something like this in terms of explaining what it means for the end user. But it seems as though these are just the tweaks are being made so that you can reduce reduce the likelihood of insolvencies, right? Barring like real certain user behaviors. Yeah, interesting, man.
Yeah, and at the end, they also explain a little bit about which is the current value and the recommended value that will be acquired through this proposal. And for example, the Aave loan to value currently is at 60%, and they recommend a change to 62.5%. The DPI liquidation bonus from 8.5% to 7.5%. And you have also the FAI loan to value that's 60 to 65, and the FEI liquidation threshold from 70 to 75%, and the mana loan to value from 65 to 61.5%. So most of the changes are between 2 and 5%. So we'll see how this affects the iProtocol.
Yeah, I mean, so like if we think out 6 months or whatever, it'd be interesting, or the next time that this type of proposal is made, it would be interesting to like compare a TVL. That'd be like that's only one variable. But so like right now, just for the purposes of they were covering this, let's go and see. Well, maybe we can check it and we can include it with some type of I will include in the description of this live stream as like the current TVL. So like when we see something like this again in the future, we can sort of compare, at least as one way to evaluate like the effectiveness of these tweaks, right? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. It will be interesting to do it. I will write this down. All right, shall we go to Uniswap?
Yes, sir. Here we are.
So in the Uniswap question, we want to open the questions to everyone here on the stream. So basically, will you share which is your favorite DX? Which is your favorite space to swap or to exchange coins? Which is yours, Stewels?
Talking on like Gnosis chain or just generally speaking?
Yeah. Folks can share whatever they feel is their best, the one they use the most.
Yeah, I mean, if I type app dot right in my URL, it automatically the first thing that comes up is HoneySwap. so it's like that's sort of on Gnosis chain. That's been my default because it's sort of was I don't know. It's the first that I encountered a year and a half ago, and then it was the first that existed on the chain, right? So it had, for people who have been here for any length of time, it's like, or interested in trading in honey and some of these other assets. There's decent liquidity, right, relative to the dexes on Gnosis chain in general. But there are some trades obviously that are better on Swapper. But the honey swap dex routes, like it aggregates and routes the best trades. So I would say app.honeyswap.org. I'm shilling here, but like shamelessly, because this headline means that I don't know if it even matters, because if it passes, everybody's gonna go here. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, man? Where do you go to swap?
Um, I think it happens the same to me. I go a lot to HoneySwap if I type the same. Yeah, I think I use that a lot, and I use a lot of the Exile to die bridge, where that's a bridge, but yeah, I think that's one of the ones I use the most. So the reason why we are asking this, folks, is because today we will be talking a lot about Uniswap, and the headlines that start this conversation is a temperature check on a snapshot of Uniswap, that it's should Uniswap v3 be deployed to Gnosis chain. So what is your first impression of this, Tiwos? You know, like the typical, like the real deal coming to a lot of forks, the space of the forks, like, so a lot of honey swaps and fork Uniswaps. So what do you think of this kind of, more of this DX on a space that already have forks of itself?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's V3 is different tech, right? So like there's that. If I think that there is therefore a justification that is like they're not saying let's bring over another fork of V1 or V2. And so that's important, I think, to distinguish here right out of the gates. I mean, it's a more complex, and therefore it's not open source, right, in the same way as the others were. Um,
Right.
And so I do think, like if I'm looking out a whatever 3 to 5 years, if you have this sort of like indistinguished, like right now we're talking about bridges and getting cross chain, but if you have like a more seamless user experience, if the question is like what is the average user going to be, what is the front end and like the tech that they're going to be using, the average person across the multi-chain future, like if it's not Uniswap, I'd be surprised. I'll be honest, man. Right? Like so I guess in this specific instance, V3 is, I don't know, people, I don't claim to have like technical, like really any sort of technical knowledge about it, but there are additional, obviously provides additional opportunities and sort of investment opportunities and for users, including single-sided staking and so LPing in a different way. So yeah, and I'm sort of just like ranting here, but it is
Yeah.
it's sort of it's a little bit hard, right? Because on one hand, it's like it will definitely attract the most liquidity, sort of by default. Um, and we just gotta. I don't know what that means yet, and frankly, I haven't read through all the technicals of the proposal. Perhaps you have, but um,
I
oh,
think I
yeah.
think what's interesting is the idea of, if you have, yeah, I think it's interesting, the idea of the potential bridges it will bring, the adoption for coins or tokens that are not so popular, but they exist on this ecosystem of Gnosis ecosystem. So I think it could be interesting to the opportunities of bringing visibility to a lot of projects who have high value in the sense of what they do, but they don't necessarily have a huge, use of their tokens outside their own ecosystem. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. We'll go through the proposal, and they explain on the proposal basically that the rebranded Gnosis chains provide a real-world value chain that closely mirrors the Ethereum 2.0 ecosystem. The tune parameters on the Gnosis chain enable faster blocks and epochs, low-cost stable transactions, and the opportunity to construct trustless bridges and conduct seamlessly transfers between Gnosis Chain and Ethereum 2.0 mainnet. And Gnosis Chain is poised for expansion. With this in mind, the proposal looks for a Uniswap v3 deployment on the Gnosis Chain, and some of the believed benefits, and this is really interesting, the word believed benefits, include One, a DeFi ecosystem primed for growth. Once deployed, Uniswap will become a cornerstone DeFi engine for protocols using and interacting within the ecosystem. Secondly, an iterative environment. Uniswap Labs can experiment with new functionality and front run new features in a real value environment. Uniswap can spot and remediate any potential issues stemming from important Ethereum updates prior to mainnet activation and take advantage of optimized slot and epoch times for faster iterations. And three, the tight Ethereum compatibility. Sorry about that. It means that tools, resources, projects, and protocols supported by Ethereum are already supported by the Gnosis chain with mod onboarding regularly. And this was vote 100% in favor with 856 votes on it. Any thoughts, Wells?
Yeah, man, I was looking for a link to the forum here. I guess I have to just go and dig a little bit there, just to learn a little bit more about like the conversation, I guess, around this in the Uniswap forum, and what the timeline might be for deployment. I don't know if that's indicated here or not. I don't think it is. Like, should it be approved, kind of thing, or this is just a temperature check? What is the procedure again for Uniswap, man? Is it consensus next?
Yes, next is consensus, and yeah, they don't have much. They don't add any more much more in this proposal. They are explaining that they welcome any questions and comments and are happy to provide any clarifications needed. My bet is that they're gonna have some AMA most likely, so we will see um how
Hmm.
they will do this process. But looking forward, I think, yeah, the basic proposal is interesting. It was voted with 7 million unis tokens, so and it's already being accepted. It passed 3 days ago. So I don't know. We will looking forward to see how this progress and how it will. The same thing that you mentioned, no, regarding how it will affect um, the ecosystem. It would be nice to keep track of this so we can check what was the before and after.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. And I'm gonna have to do sort of a shameless plug here. We will, the TV team, has a number of partner projects that we work with and are in the process of creating some cool content for. And one of those has to do with the DeFi ecosystem in the Gnosis chain. If you want to learn more about the sort of what went down at the Agave protocol, or with the Agave protocol, you should definitely check out our new YouTube channel. And it is new; it's like less than 2 weeks old. So it is the channel which we're streaming to now. You can go to, let's see if I can go over there. Actually, just give me a second. I'll try to get it on screen. The link should be in the chat there. We'll drop it in the One Hive TV chat here in Discord. But if you go over to the YouTube channel, you can find a chat with, this is the first Paul 2 Web 3 show. And he had Monstro on for about a little over an hour to chat about that. And if you don't know Monstrosity or about Monstro, he is someone who has been involved in the Agave project really since its genesis, and is someone who he was sharing sort of what it was like at the metal there, and not a position I don't think anybody would like to be in, but the complexities and nuance of the Agave hack are something that we will look forward to sharing with you sort of more directly in the near future. But in the meantime, I think the rest of the ecosystem is definitely worth checking out if you haven't before, and there will be a good piece of video content to sort of familiarize you with a number of the tools we got available in the Gnosis chain space. Hopefully this will be posted by the end of the coming week, but we'll see, either this week or next. At any rate, what you got next, Eddie? What do you think?
Yeah, we will have again another Uniswap migration proposal or Uniswap related proposal, but this one it's from Olympus. So it's OEP 86 Olympus migration proposal. So this proposal that it started on March 22 and it ended on March 25th. It's a proposal that name it says itself. It's a proposal to migrate the bulk of OM, which is Olympus token, the OM DAI and OM ETH liquidity currently on SushiSwap to Uniswap V2 and V3. The migration deploys liquidity for both those on pairs across the full price range and adjusts the liquidity depth in the same process. Additionally, the proposal outlines the implementation of a novel policy lever, concentrated liquidity bonds, and these are mechanisms for Olympus to one, increase liquidity per in circulation, reinforce the backing of third, dampen volatility. That's a very tricky word in specific price ranges. And fourth, meet the demand for additional liquidity on the downside and upside alike. This policy allows Olympus to set desired prices impact on trades in either direction, achieving a more efficient use of liquidity. With more detailed control of the liquidity profile, Olympus can also manage risky scenarios such as liquidation cascades triggered by third parties lending markets. This was voted with 99.82% in favor. So, they are basically leaving sushi to move into Uniswap.
Yeah, this is
What do you think?
interesting. Man. Do you have any numbers on those LP positions? And if anybody's in the stream or in chat is curious about anything we're talking about, of course, always drop a question, comment if you got insights, if you want to set us straight on anything. We'd love to hear from you. In this specifically, if anybody knows, I mean, I could go and Google it up if you want to look on. I guess it's be mainnet sushi, but like, I'm curious to know, how much liquidity this is in terms of these two pairs. But yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, and again, to my knowledge, a little bit reflecting back to what we were talking about earlier, sushi doesn't really have anything that competes with V3 directly. Now, I could be wrong about that, but in a sense, perhaps the incentive is to take advantage of new opportunities presented by new tech here. But I'm sure there's also more context than that. I'm just curious to know exactly how much sushi is bleeding here, right? I mean, it's sort of
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a weird 2 years later kind of moment, right? Interesting.
Yeah, and I think you will see the impact. I think even directly to the sushi token probably if this gets
Yeah.
if they get hard, we will see the impact.
Yeah, yeah. I got to be honest. I was looking at last week after you shared the news about sushi and they were sort of revamping their samurai program. I kind of
Right.
I went over and looked at the sushi chart and I was like, man, like I don't know. It looks on one hand, people buy for different reasons, and this is not financial advice in the least. It's simply to say that it's interesting what we're doing here on a weekly basis, and the types of stories you're bringing do help you look under the hood, right? I mean, we know now that sushi is facing this type of issue and like a technological deficit versus say Uniswap perhaps, but they look like, I mean, at least they're directing resources to the types of community building and sustaining activities that I think, if successful, could at least keep sushi certainly from like going under or something entirely. Who knows, right? I mean, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, yeah, we will see. I mean, again, this is something to be tracked, and take a look in the nearest future to see what will happen with this proposal of Olympus. I mean, Olympus is not a small protocol by no means.
Right.
So yeah,
Let's do it. Give me a second. Let's see if I can actually find the liquidity. I'm dying to find it. Let's see if anybody come up with a link or something like that. Give me a second. On screen, if you're following on YouTube or Twitch, folks, we're gonna go and I'll see if I can put it on screen. Give me a sec.
they have shared some in the forum post. They have shared some of the graphics that relates to the new analytics and liquidity supply ratio depreciation, and they have liquidity market capitalization also. But I am awful with numbers and I'm awful with reading charts, so I have no clue what does this mean. So I will rely on you educational side, Walls, today.
Well, I don't really want to connect my wallet right now, actually, live on stream because I don't know what's there. Anyways, I'll figure this out. But like, I will figure it out on another screen and maybe bring it over later if we find the link. Essentially, we got to go to the sushi analytics and then make sure that I think it's obviously, I assume it's mainnet, and just look for the own
Yeah,
pairs. And again, I don't know how much of it is owned by Olympus, but after all, right, it is Olympus, and it's all about protocol and liquidity. So I'm just curious. Maybe on the forum they have more detail here. But cool
yeah,
story, man.
they have yeah, they have a little bit more of details on this, but they don't. I don't read any kind of expressed number, more of a graphic. They have a lot of graphics, basically.
Right on.
Uh, so we can move to balancer, shall we?
Let's do it. I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see. All right.
So this is a proposal that started on March 22 and it ended on March 25th, and they had three options. Yes, let's do it. I know, and a quorum. They need a quorum 100K, which was overpassed highly. The quorum was 327K. It's a lot of quorum, and this proposal basically they give an explanation, and they explain a little bit of a series of actions need to happen for the new V-Ball token economic system to be deployed. This proposal asks for the governance multisig to grant permission for the coordinator smart contract in order to enable it to perform these actions necessarily to successfully deploy the V system. And this they explain that the V system is pioneered by the Curve Finance and has been chosen to be used as a new token economics for Ball. And they have also an explanation that participating in Curve DAO governance requires an account have a balance of votes cross CRV, and VCRV is a non-standard ERC20 implementation used within the Aragon DAO to determine each account's voting power. And VCRV is represented by the voting scroll contract deployed on the Ethereum mainnet. And it's a very complicated, long explanation. I will not keep going through because it's tricky and it will get triggered by the acronyms. But basically, this vote was vote 91% in favor, and with 8% vote on no. And they were really nice to have a defined date for deployment of the system. And the first one is the 28th of March, I mean today. It's the launch of the V-Ball, and they explain that on this date, all smart contracts necessary for the system to work as described in the new token economics proposals will be active, with the exception of the bridges for Arbitrum and Polygon, which will take a couple extra weeks. In the meantime, LM for Arbitrum and Polygon will continue as it is today. And the 7th of April, and it's the beginning of liquidity mining using on-chain V contracts for Ethereum mainnet gauges. And since Balancer LPs needs to have some time to stake their BPT into the new gauge system, I propose we consider all BPTs are still eligible for liquidity mining until April the 7th. From this day on, only staked BPTs will be able to claim ball from LM. And they have a walkthrough on the implementation, and and all the explanations that this has to be approved before the 28th for the deployment plan to work, and so on. And they have a bunch of references regarding the introduction to B-Ball token economics, the balancer authorizers, and the coordinator address. So, Curve Finance. Curve Finance is another one that we have been seeing quite a lot, don't we, T-Walls?
Yeah, we do, and this is actually something that I think I'd love to get. I don't know, I think Billy. I saw Billy in the audience here on Discord earlier. I'm not sure if Billy is able, but if not now, then in the future, I think he's got some insights, particularly on Curve. He's been a longtime Curve user, fan, and can sort of probably break this down into layman's terms better than I can, certainly. In terms of why this is sort of bullish, this specific headline, right, is bullish, I think, for both Balancer as well as Curve. And sort of how this tokenomics mechanism, essentially it benefits. It's like, in my understanding, and I could be wrong. This is sort of a cross between like an emissions policy and sharing a certain portion of profits with token holders, more or less. Now, I could be set straight on that, and that's a very vague description to begin with, but yeah, absolutely. I think that people who are more technically inclined. And Billy's got his hand up, so let's bring him up on and have him share a little more about Curve and maybe the intersection with Balancer here.
What up?
Hey, man, GM.
Good morning, guys. I'm still recovering from Will Smith's slap right now, so bear with me.
Amazing. Yeah.
All right. So
around the world.
Yeah, Curve is like the standard right now, or basically the flavor of the year in a sense for VE kind of systems. So for those people that don't know, you buy a token, you stake it, you earn rewards, you have voting power, right? The way Curve does is you have to stake it, and depending on how long you stake it is how much voting power you get. So if I have one Curve and then I stake it for 1 year, I get 0.25 VE Curve. So that gives me a quarter of my voting power of what I have. If I stake it for 4 years, I'll get one full VE Curve, and then I have 1-for-1 voting power. Over time, my voting power deteriorates. After the 4 years, it pretty much goes back down to basically nothing, and I have to restake that curve in order to have voting power. I'm also getting a share of the platform profits. So 0.03%, 0.01.5 goes to the platform, and then the rest goes to the VE curve holders. So it's like a benefit. So it's like, well, now there's a use to hold a token, there's a use to stake the token, and that seems to be working for, even with all the pressure from dumping from the FTX guys, from the Urine guys, they've withheld it. So now people are seeing like, hey, this is a valuable type of system to work. So balancers now is like, hey, we're getting dumped on with all the rewards, let's follow that same type of VE curve.
Yeah. So it helps to lock up circulating supply by incentivizing through additional voting power. Is that inaccurate?
Yes, okay. Yes. Basically, it gives you a 1-to-1 voting power if you lock in for 4 years. If you lock in for 1 year because you want to speculate on the price and sell, you only have a quarter of the voting power and also only get a quarter of the profits.
Got it. Very cool. Yeah. And this is a mechanism that could ostensibly be like plugged into any tokenomics model?
Theoretically. Well, anything that generates money. So like basically any kind of market making type of system, like Curve is a liquidity pool, Balancer is a liquidity pool. So any transaction where there's a swap is, anything that you're making money, there is an opportunity to use this VE type of system.
Very cool. Edo, do you have any thoughts about that? Questions, man? Anybody in the audience want to ask about this? Well, we got Billy with us here.
No, Billy, so this is too complex for me to formulate a question.
It's just a cool system of like, when you think about anything you buy a token, like when I personally buy a token, it's like, okay, what is the purpose of this token and what do I get for holding it? So it's like, okay, well, if I get to vote, okay, so it's voting power for a lot of these tokens. So a big whale can come and take over it. So then what is it to pass a vote and then dump it later? Now, if I wanted to be a big whale and vote on Curve, I have to stake it for 4 years, do the vote, and now I'm stuck with it for 4 years. And then I'm also getting a piece of the pie as well. So it's a pretty good system overall.
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting way to engage people outside, because it's like for me, when you create these engage layers, it's an engage layer on the governance side and the incentive side rather than the community. Usually incentives come on the economic side or the community side, but this is an incentive on the governance side. And this is a question people get quite often, like, oh, what do I get if I vote? And most of the project will say nothing, because that's
you get a PO-up. You get a PO-up. There you go.
Correct. So I think it's a really nice incentives, but 4 years is a lot of commitment.
Well, again, is it a long-term play on the system? Like, are you here for the long term, or are you a big-time believer? And that becomes the question of like, are you here for the bull run and then you jet off to the next big thing, or are you here to like live in the Web3 world? And I think that's one of the bigger statements overall.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's an interesting layer of incentive through governance and through the economic layer. I think I still believe that 4 years. I don't get me wrong. I like the idea of commitment to 4 years. What I don't like is the idea that I feel that sometimes these projects believe that all of their users have the luxury to sort of be in that comfortable position to stake something for 4 years, and they do not. Like, how yes, you have the 1 year also incentive, which is way less. But what I'm saying is like I would like to see, specifically in Ethereum, this kind of not incentives, big incentive for small runs. No, I don't mean that, but I'm like, what are the chances to for someone who who wants to be in the Web3 space, but they don't have enough capacity to stake at this level for 4 years and expect a return in 4 years, even if they are committed to a project. You can be committed to a project, but doesn't mean you have a long time disposable or a long pool of resources to be able to sustain it through 4 years. So I like these incentives, but I feel like, as you I think mentioned at some point, they are more driven towards people who have the capacity and the solvency to be able to stake for so long.
Not to get too detailed, but the voting power decides who gets the rewards as well. So like just not to get too far off topic, but Curve emissions is for about 300 years. So the emissions will go way past our lifetime, for a lifetime of setting. So when I think of Curve, I think of, I'm setting this thing for life. Every 4 years, I got to renew it, or basically whenever, when 2 years in, you have half of your Curve back. So you just have to restake it every so often, whenever it makes sense for you. But overall, it's a long term of like, there's not too many platforms that actually share the profits with you. So that's kind of a big thing. And then being able to vote of where the emissions go towards on the liquidity provider is the reason we have all these Curve wars, because everybody wants to have emissions on their liquidity position.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, let's not get deeper into that. Thank you so much, really, for your knowledge.
No doubt. That's what I'm here for, guys.
Yeah, man. We're going to have, don't forget, folks, tomorrow, we got still at 6:30 Pacific. Is that right, Billy? Tomorrow?
Yeah. It's not for the children. Okay, put your kids to sleep, because this is corporate Billy here. Okay, this is it. I talk the real talk when the kiddies go to sleep.
Yeah. We're gonna be, if you're there, that is like 9:30 Eastern. So we'll do late night with Billy tomorrow. Cheers, man. Appreciate you.
No doubt, guys.
Tune in tomorrow.
So we can one of the last ones for today. It's the Open DAO. Open DAO keeps coming. I'm so sorry, folks, but it's just it's in between interesting, funny, and peculiar. So Open DAO, they have SOS IP 18, the Open DAO Academy. And this is this kind of proposals that I feel are not necessarily proposed by the community, but by someone who wants to profit. And this is biased, and this is a personal opinion of mine. It's not One Hive TV opinion of this. And this basically, it was a proposal request for one-time grant from the Open DAO of 100 USD in SOS tokens to fund the Open DAO Academy, which will host a flagship cohort graduate practice diploma in Web3 program. And there will be also a free audit and a play to earn qualification NFT on-chain segment. The funds will be used to pay for the lead educator, guest speakers, and a lean teaching assistant team who will double up as IT, media, and administrative support. All funds will be in custody by the Open DAO operational team. And this was vote against it. 51 is one of the few educational spaces that I've seen denied. But if you read through the proposal, you will probably see some question marks regarding this proposal. For example, the specification, it says that the proposal is a core contributor of the Open DAO, a family physician, and an adjunct lecturer at a local university. But they don't mention which university. They don't explain. They don't explain much about this curriculum. Um, they don't expand. They don't explain much about how they're gonna how is the roadmap, and so on. So yeah, it didn't sound very transparent and clear, at least to all that I could dig in. And it was both. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank God for you finding these things, though. Finally a snapshot vote that is contentious. Like, I get bored of all these 99% in favor. It's like, okay, well, then if the content's interesting, as it is whenever you present it, it's not you, Ed. I'm just saying, I'm actually glad to see something that is contentious and denied. Like, people are willing to obviously, throw down when it's necessary to protect what they perceive maybe is their community. I don't know. I did put up here, like, if you scroll through the snapshot, there's a few things I think that are linked up. One of which is the curriculum, which I have here, which I would say, again, as an educator, this is like, you click down here and they have linked up different other Google Docs that
Yeah.
themselves are like just basically scaffolding. So all I'm saying is this is super minimal for a 100K grant. Like, if you wanted to go to get a 100K grant to do an online course development, I'm taking this to like the real world outside crypto. If you
Yeah.
wanted to actually, let's be clear, it's the same shit, man. This is not anything different in terms of when the rubber hits the road, what you got to do and deliver, content and educational content value. You would have to jump through a lot of hoops in order to get anywhere near 100K raise, which is cool in like the DAO space, that you don't have to do all that hoop jumping, but like
Yeah.
the level of specificity, given the magnitude of the ask, is definitely way out of sync. And so, given our conversations that we've had in the past with regards to Open DAO, at least, I mean, if you saw something like this pass unanimously, I'd be like, wow, this whole thing is just literally just a cash grab and dumping on holders as fast as they possibly can. But there's obviously an active base. I mean, there are how many people? Over 500 votes for it?
Yeah, the
Or
funny thing is
involved.
that the funny thing about this is that when you go to the budget and you see the document that says curse outline for Open DAO Academy, you see that the lead educator is the one that gets the most of the funds. So when you see most of the funds requesting a grant going to someone rather than going to the project itself, meaning educational platforms or coding or learning or whatever, then you get a little bit suspicious about it. And yeah, it's
Specifically with
peculiar.
that timeline, man. Look at that.
Yeah.
This, yeah. This is not like a year long. So, starting from nothing, this would, I mean, come on, man. I'm telling
Mhm.
you right now. I call this person out. If you listen to this, whoever this person is, come on stream. Let's talk about education together. Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm simply saying, looking at these numbers for 5 months, you want 10K to stand something like this up. There's no way
Yeah.
that you can do anything within the scope decently well that they've set out here in 5 months. If you know, I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily opposed to the amount of money per month for like a project lead, but this is not serious enough, unfortunately. So again, I think it's good. That it's like healthy. Like the snapshot shows that they're not just forking over, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you see the rough sketch that they present on week one. You have orientation week, creating your Web3 identity, wallet basics, and then suddenly in week two you start farming.
Yeah.
So
First thing.
it's like, yeah, there is a little bit of more steps before getting into making money. I don't know. And then you have week three, then it jumps into crypto renaissance, history, evolution, anthropology, arts, culture, and money. And then suddenly jumps back to blockchain technologies, Bitcoin, Ethereum white papers, preparing your developer's workstation. But then why do you have DeFi, skill, cube, star farming on week two? So it doesn't make much coherence, the process. Then you have in week five, crash course in solidity, break week. You have week six, DAOs, week seven, NFTs, week eight, GameFi, and week nine, focus on implementing the final projects and to add in public goods also. So I don't know.
I got to
I
be
mean,
honest, man. To their credit, there's a lot of interesting topics here. I'm not gonna lie. Like, these are interesting, like, course
yeah,
topics for sure.
yeah,
But as
for
I
sure.
mentioned, like the one that caught my eye here, Crypto Renaissance. I mean, if you click into it, it's basically just a brain dump and like this sort of generic rubric outline. So, again, interesting stuff as far as topics, but building this out definitely takes a lot more time, I think.
And I mean, and listen, like, fine, I get it. We all need this kind of education. It's key. We all need education, and we need people to be onboarded through education. That's an amazing thing. But if, for example, if you show up kernel from Gitcoin and you show up a document like this, I believe, and this is my assumption, and I could be completely wrong with this, but if you show up this a rough sketch
Right.
in a Word docs for a kernel folks, I feel no one will join kernel
Yep.
if you just show up this document and say,
Sure.
hey, this will be this, and you will pay. And I think kernel, it's paid, but it's symbolic. Almost, it seems like a symbolic amount of money, and this guy is asking like a lot for deploying something that I could basically gather on a bunch of YouTube videos, and for each of this week I could just play a YouTube video. you know
Yeah.
um And if you are charging me for personalized, tutorials, then yes. But that doesn't like I feel this academy thing is more of a personalized tutorials, online tutorial for you, with the excuse that it will be an academy, which doesn't like.
Right.
Listen, if I don't know if you guys are familiar with Token Academy, it's an amazing project. It also got funded by Gitcoin and a bunch of Ocean DAO and a bunch of protocols. They were conducting their research on governance and governance research, and they are a research group called the Academy. And the Token Engineering Academy, they will start a course at the middle of the year, and if you see their way to present information and the way they request for funding and all the information they provide to request, they request I think 10K or something like that, and they have PhD level people teaching, and they request 10K. So this is what I'm not saying one is better than the other one. I'm saying is like one looks a little bit more serious and more of a real academy kind of perception, and the other one looks like, hey, I just came out with an idea, and this feels like a draft. This feels like if you're asking for 100K, don't put me a rough sketch. Put me a defined timeline, curriculum design. If you are requesting for 100K, that's
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally, man. It's interesting. Anyways, I think the broader picture here, and in regards to these academies, I think is there's a lot of interest in building these out. I think that there's, what is it, Odyssey? I forget the. Let me actually Google it really quick. There's this really cool.
in the meantime, you Google
Yeah.
that.
Oops, that was horrible.
We have a second open question. Billy Jitsu, I don't know if you are here still, Billy Jitsu, but did you find, and since we were talking about Gitcoin, did you find any interesting project on Gitcoin this round? If you are
Sorry,
still,
I'm back.
there you
Sorry, I
go.
had my mic on mute. You know what? Literally, it was the ones that I use personally, like the hard hat one, and like a lot of frameworks that don't get a lot of love. Those were the only ones that I was kind of pushing towards too.
Did you find something new or interesting?
Man, there's just so much stuff on there that is crazy. I wish there was a kind of a filter by section type of thing where I can be like, okay, everything's kind of like a public good, and they need a better definition of public good for people that don't even know what a public good is. But it's more about like the new technology that's coming out that kind of like I'm more into. Like a lot of these devs out there building these tools that 100,000 people use, and they
Right.
get no incentive for anything on that for. So I use Hard Hat to develop. I deployed so many things on Hard Hat. I figured I'd throw a few bucks to Hard Hat.
And please tell me, how many NFT projects did you like? How many NFT deployment spaces or website or platforms? I count around 20.
Oh
Everything.
yeah, I mean, Jesus, that's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. Just the amount of NFT projects on here that are just insane. It's pretty
Yeah.
much like, yeah, it's. I'll be covering that, okay? Because I gotta cover my mouth. I gotta be corporate. I got my suit and tie on today.
All right. Did you find it?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it loaded up here. It looks like Hard Hat and some of these others did get a lot of love. I think if you go to like, it seems as though their page is having a little bit of trouble. I'm sure they've had a lot of traffic. I'll try to refresh it here, but if you look at the top 10 winners from like GR12, and I'm sure they will publish, if not already, but soon, for GR13. The top winners are definitely, in my opinion, really quality efforts and projects and organizations. But how you properly define the threshold to a public good, I think, as Billy is saying, is really important. And as the industry in order for the industry to move forward and be taken seriously by people outside of crypto, I think that this is like an important conversation to have, and it's not condemnatory, right? It's like a healthy conversation to have on a phrase that does have real important roots in like the legacy space that are not irrelevant, right? They need to sort of carry over into the digital world, in my opinion.
I want to make. We are on the top of the hour, too, Wells. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if we're gonna close up with this. But before we close up, I wanna do a very a specific shout out to the user JackieLove.eth, mainly because that's one of my favorite players' names on League of Legends. So I don't know if you chose that
Oh
name
yeah.
because of that, but I really like your username, so that's it. I said it.
Yeah, Jam to everybody who's with us today. Really appreciate you joining us. If you're here with us in Discord, remember again, we are streaming on YouTube and Twitch. And feel free to drop any questions, comments in either the One Hive TV chat here in Discord or in either of those other platforms if you're tuning in over there. We're making some yeah, I guess I would say, Edo, do you need to jet out, sir, or are you able to stay a bit across the top of the hour?
No, I gotta leave this time, sadly enough.
Gotcha, man. Well, it's been great chatting. Awesome news headlines as always, man. I think we got a lot of great stories covered today.
No problem, and thank you so much, T Wells and Billy Jitsu for today. Looking forward to see you next week.
Take care, man. GM, Edo.
Cool, man. Have a good one.
All right, folks. So yeah, I think I'm just going to give a couple quick housekeeping things here at the top of the hour, and Ed had to hop off. And we initially had on the schedule folks from Moon Jelly to come on and join us today, and they've had some logistical complications. But I would definitely take a second just to recommend you check out their project. They're doing ocean conservation. So I'll actually put this up on screen while I'm sort of doing housekeeping stuff just so everybody can see it. Let's see. We do Moon Jelly. Oops. Moonjelly.io. This is like a regen or a decon project. They're interesting. They got a lot of really serious people building on this, and like they're way pre-token, right? That's actually not really a part of the conversations right now. They're interested in actually leveraging the sort of academic and science side of things when it comes to environmental impact. So trying to figure out how you can quantify impact, and then putting together an academy that enables essentially decentralization of conservation to local communities who know best what they need and how to do it. So again, it's sort of a different, like the predication of decentralization here is actually trying to push real environmental impact to the margins, and like the role of a token economy in this effort is like on the roadmap, so to speak, but it's not something that's being discussed on a day-to-day basis. There's, like I said, there's one individual in particular who's definitely going to be joining us on stream in the coming weeks, if hopefully next month, okay, in April. We got a lot of great guests lined up here, but Bruce Groark, you can Google him. Bryce, Bryce, last name Groark. You can look at his IMDb. He is basically one of the world's like foremost ocean cinematographers and photographers, and it's like he is sort of the tip of the spear on Moon Jelly, and he knows like all the biggest philanthropic organizations and activists when it comes to ocean conservation. So the big picture here for me is an interest that you have like real, what would otherwise be considered like nonprofit operatives that are serious about trying to DAO it. So very cool here. Again, this is not for Moon Boys just yet, like eventually maybe, but if you're interested in sort of that sort of thing, I think I used sort of twice there. Check them out, moonjelly.io, and we'll have them on hopefully the stream again soon. If you are joining us for the first time today, GM to everybody, we're going to take a few minutes and chat a bit about honey use cases in lieu of having folks from Moon Jelly on with us today. But I just wanted to remind you that the POAPs, if you are here looking for one, they are being distributed by someone whose name I will not say. If you figured out who it is, please do not spam this person asking for a DM. Right. I would just ask you not to do that. Right. I'm not going to say who it is because I want that person to be shown mercy. Like I really don't want. But to the best of our able, the secret word for today's POAP is being distributed to people who we know, people parts of the community who show up on a weekly basis, and it will be shared at some point in the next, I would say, 10 minutes verbally. I'll share it once on the stream here for everybody else to go ahead and grab one again on their mobile device is easiest. If you haven't had a chance to go over to our YouTube channel, go ahead and head over there. I'm going to drop a link in the One Hive TV chat, and give us a, I guess, subscribe over there and give us a follow on Twitch if you haven't had a chance to do so already. And that way you'll get notifications every time we go live. And it is highly likely in the near future that we're going to move the POAPs over to a QR code, in which case we will show this on screen. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because if you're interested in collecting these POAPs, you're going to need to be watching on either YouTube or Twitch, because we're not going to show it in the Discord. Okay, so now is a good time, if you haven't done so already, to head up. If you're in the Discord, go up to One Hive TV chat channel and check out the links that are being dropped there right now. Give us a follow or a sub on YouTube and Twitch. It is possible next week that we will be streaming from a different location. Right, we may or may not be here in the One Hive Discord. There are conversations about experimenting with different broadcast locations. So again, if you're interested in tuning in, seeing the visuals, and collecting the POAPs, make sure you follow, subscribe on our YouTube and Twitch channels. We do have the intention, and I guess Billy is actually here, still with us on stage here, and has been someone who's encouraged us to consider moving the broadcast to Twitter Spaces as well. So bottom line here is we're going to be experimenting with different setups, but the YouTube and the Twitch channels are going to remain fixed. Like anytime there's any content going live on the 1HTV stream, whether it's this Monday show, if it's a Tuesday show tomorrow, if it's Wednesday, whatever, any of the shows we got going on, YouTube and Twitch will always have our program live. Okay, so again, check them out. Links to both are in the One Hive TV channel here in the Discord. GM to everybody for joining us. We're going to take a quick break here and be back in just a moment to talk a little bit about honey use cases here. GM to everybody, and we'll be back.
All right. Yeah, I'm here.
On YouTube and Twitch. Cool. Well, again, GM to everybody here. We're gonna take just maybe 15, 20 minutes to talk a little about Honey today, and we'll talk about 3 use cases. And any questions on Honey, where to get it, questions on how to use it, anything we're talking about here, feel free to drop a question in the chat, either on YouTube or Twitch, or in, of course, the OneHive TV channel here in the Discord. We got on screen the OneHive webpage, so onehive.org is a good place to start here, although you're not necessarily going to find links to the platforms I'm going to share with you today directly from the OneHive page. Maybe we could link those up in the future. But we do have access, of course, to HoneySwap. So if you haven't been to HoneySwap over on Gnosis Chain, simply head over to app.honeyswap.org. And you'll see a familiar front end here for swapping. This is a DEX aggregator for Gnosis Chain. And if you're a Honey holder, you can consider doing a number of things, and there are 2 sort of DeFi options here, and then we'll talk a little about Celeste. The first is on symmetric finance, and if you're not familiar, symmetric finance is a balancer fork on Gnosis Chain. So if you go to symmetric.finance, it'll take you to their homepage. They do have a deployment on Gnosis Chain and on CeeLo. Talked about CeeLo a little bit last week on our DAO news segment. So if you open it on XDAI, it'll either say XDAI or Gnosis Chain, depending on the platform here. Everybody's in the process, I think, of updating. For those that do not know, Gnosis Chain is the official name or the new name of what used to be XDAI. You'll see the swap end here for symmetric, and you need to then click once more through to add liquidity, and you'll see the pools that are available. You can click on the button on the right-hand side to filter by asset. So in this case, we can open this up and check out the pools containing Honey, and there are a number that are available to you here. We got the largest pool here, liquidity. It looks like it needs to take a second to load. We have one here with Wrap BTC, WETH, and Honey. Right now with an APR of over 8%. So nothing insane over here at Symmetric Finance, but if you're interested in earning a yield, maybe on Honey in combination with other tokens that you hold, you can, of course, bridge a number of assets over using either Connext or Hop.exchange. There are a variety of bridges. If you're coming over from mainnet, the Omni bridge is always a good option. And if you're a Honey holder, if you're sort of bullish on the long-term Honey and the community effort to build out particularly DAO tooling and community, then this is a good place to park your Honey with other assets. So symmetric finance is, of course, one option here, and OneHive and related projects have had various partnerships with Symmetric in the last couple of months. Unfortunately, with the events at Agave, the partnership there is something that perhaps will have to be explored again in the future. But Symmetric was a part of essentially enabling dual rewards for collateral, which is really cool. And again, hopefully we'll see more of in the future. So symmetric.finance, if you're a Honey holder, check it out there. You can find a number of pools. And then another option is, of course, elk.finance. If you haven't been to elk.finance before, or you haven't explored elk finance, let me see if I can adjust my screen a little bit here. You should definitely do so today. Elk Finance is a project we've had partnership with for quite a while. We had them on for a trivia earlier this year. Very cool project here. If you know anything about the Elk token or the project, check out. You can take a look at their docs. We have, again, a trivia video on the OneHive YouTube channel where you can learn a whole bunch of stuff about Elk Finance. But the reason, of course, I'm showing it to you today is to share a little bit about the farming opportunities available on Elk Gnosis Chain. Of course, as you can see here on screen on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, there are, I don't want to count them out right now, but there's over a dozen chains to which Elk Finance is deployed, Gnosis Chain being one of them. And if we go over to farming on Gnosis Chain, again, if your RPC should be set, and in case you're not picking it up as mine is not, you need to go to Gnosis on the network options. Well, I'm actually not plugged in, so I don't know why it's not allowing me to change. Oops. Well, tell you what, folks, I'm going to pull it up in just a second here. Get my wallet sorted off screen. Give me just a moment. So on Gnosis Chain, again, if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, you can see the menu of farming options here. Again, familiar. I mean, this is straight vanilla Uni v1. And then you have opportunity to pair elk and honey here with around a total of what looks like about 122% APY or APR on that. And so this is something to take a look at. Obviously, the yield is paid out in elk, and elk right now also has single-sided staking with an APY of over 50%. So a good place to, again, park your honey perhaps in the farm here, paired with elk. Again, not financial advice here, but if you are a honey holder already, or if you're somebody interested in getting into the community here, participating in governance, which we'll talk about in a second, these are some simple ways to be earning a bit on your honey if you already hold it here. If you're looking for opportunities, these are two good ways to get involved on Gnosis Chain. So again, this would be Symmetric Finance or Elk Finance. They're both opportunities to earn some yield on that honey. If you are bullish long term there, and you're interested in participating in governance, for example, we'll come over to the Gardens front end now. If you go back to the homepage, actually, we can route it from there so that people can see it easiest. If you go to onehive.org and you're interested in learning more about or seeing our governance front end, and really the governance front end for a number of projects here in the Gnosis chain, you can click Open DAO, and this will take you to the Gardens DApp. And this, of course, is a project built by OneHive and is used by a number of DAOs on Gnosis chain and Polygon, and perhaps there will be future deployments on other chains. It's always possible, but it looks as though it's not loading on my page. Give me 1 second. We'll see if we can get this. I may have to switch wallets. Let's see. There we go. So if you haven't seen the Gardens front end before, definitely check it out. It's just adding the subdomain to onehive.org. So gardens.onehive.org, you can connect your wallet. And at the very top here, if you're interested in really getting into the weeds, if you're somebody who happens to be in the audience, you're watching this after the live stream, and you want to explore certain DAO voting infrastructure, this is something you might want to take a look at in the documentation. This is being overhauled at the moment, actually, to sort of optimize to help onboard new communities that are interested. But definitely check out the documentation. Creating a garden is actually going to take you into the wizard. So this would be, again, I'll show you. If you click on here, you can get into the process of creating your own DAO community. In the case of the different communities here, you can simply click on a tile and you'll be taken to the front end. So we go to OneHive, you'll see the governance interface here, and the proposals here in the center. So at the top, you have a number of different figures that are related to price, total supply, and the size of the common pool, which is the shared resources, the OneHive community, or any Gardens DAO for that matter that adopts this platform. And there are a number of proposals that are live here, including 2 from Paul. Well, rather, I should say 1 active from Paul on shared liquidity. And so this is specifically for folks if you have honey and you're holding it, you'd like to participate. This is one proposal you might take a look at. All proposals for DAOs in the Gardens ecosystem use the similar template, and including the link here, of course, for a funding proposal that will take you to the forum. So if you want to learn more about it, you can click in here. You can see most of the details, and also a forum conversation is integrated rather, down below. So you can sort of preview the background if you wish, and if you're a honey holder, you can support the proposal. Okay. You can also challenge a proposal. This is not something I would suggest you do unless you have a valid reason, of course, for doing so. And in this specific proposal, I don't think there's anything to challenge. One of the things to note, if you spend time with us on a regular basis and you see a lot of snapshot stuff in the first hour, if you're not familiar, Gardens operates a little bit different than Snapshot. It's intended to be this voting mechanism to enable DAO decision making, but there are a number of important differences. One of which is that there's no downvote. right? So you either support a proposal or you abstain from supporting a proposal. There are some detailed sort of nuances in math about the system itself, but conviction voting is something that is built into the voting mechanism, or is a voting mechanism that's built into the support, right? Or built into supporting a proposal for any Gardens DAO. This is something actually that we're in the process of working on developing, like a sort of a nice either interactive video or infographic to explain how conviction voting works. It's something interesting, novel, and there's a lot of different possibilities that we have with like liquid democracy. The math of it is not something that I'm really capable of breaking down in the simplest of ways right now, but I hope to learn more about that and be able to share it with everybody who's interested in sort of the nuances, or like I'm geeking out on how governance can take place and how we can improve it. Yeah.
Real quick, T. Wells, just to jump in, like the one sentence liner, it's designed to keep whales from just bullying the small token holders around, in a sense.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that it's when you express support, right, it essentially builds conviction over time. So as long as you pass the minimum required threshold, then a smaller number of, well, rather a larger number of smaller token holders can conceivably, get things done, essentially, if they're willing to be patient and the conviction dynamic isn't too steep or isn't too difficult, I guess.
Right. I mean, the big example I would use for that would be the Uniswap education fund for the $21 million that, basically for big holders kind of, I would say, stole the money, because we still haven't seen any education out of it yet. But then you have a chance to go back into conviction voting where, randomly chosen users can dispute the vote.
Right. Right. And this is probably a good segue, actually. So if in the situation that Billy is describing, where you have, say, if Uniswap under those circumstances were using Gardens, then anyone who was a token holder and had sort of, you can set a certain threshold, but probably not requiring a lot of tokens, could come into the proposal and click on that challenge button that we talked about earlier. And this then triggers a series of steps, right? The most important of which is that the proposal is basically put on pause until the challenge is either resolved, or is resolved between the challenger and the person who submitted the proposal, or it is elevated to Celeste, which is a separate platform that I'll show on screen here that actually involves another use case for Honey. So just to back up for a second, right? We can maybe go through this in greater detail here in like a future episode where we dedicate this, and we can take any questions again now or in the future. People have them who are listening. But if you have a proposal that comes to requesting funding of any kind, you can express support for that proposal. But you're not going to see accumulation of down votes like you would see on Snapshot, okay? There's really only one way to vote. It's either you support or you do not, unless you feel that the proposal that is on is being suggested violates the DAO's community values. And this is the reason why up in the top of the screen you see this button that says Covenant, right? So if you go to any of these DAOs, so I can go over to Giveth, for example, and you see that the Covenant button remains, and a lot of this remains the same. And the reason for that is because in order to frame the important things, right, to that DAO, you're required, when you launch a Gardens DAO, you're required to put this language, IPFS, on chain, right, so that it's there for everyone to see. It's immutable. And if you are somebody who is holding Honey, or in this case Give, for example, and you really want to participate in governance and create proposals and be involved in the process of the DAO, then you have to sign the covenant on chain. So there is sort of an important vow that you're taking when you enter into the Gardens DAO, in the Gardens DAO governance systems. And this serves as the reference point, right? The covenant itself serves as the reference point for evaluating whether or not a proposal should be challenged, right? And it's like a mechanism for the community to defend itself. And the way that it works is if someone were to challenge that Uniswap proposal that Billy's referring to, the party who proposed it would have a certain period of time to either basically pay, like forfeit collateral and withdraw the proposal, and therefore it like goes away entirely and it's no longer an issue, or the proposer basically refuses, right, to settle out of court, so to speak, and the whole proposal is then elevated to Celeste. So let's go over there. Billy, is there anything else you want to add, man? I know some of this can get like dense and
Yeah, it's basically you have to have an appreciation for what like One Hive has built or Honey in general, and I appreciate it more than the last 2 weeks when I've been like searching and looking around or what like all these, I would say, fake DAOs would do. But in essence, you're creating something here that's somewhat decentralized, and it's like a snapshot. If people pass it, you still don't have to enforce it, so to say. Like you just have, it's like a temp check, like, oh, okay, everybody agrees with this, but we don't necessarily have to execute. When you do something on a garden, it executes. Like if it's a unanimous pass, there's no one that needs to execute it. It just executes. And that's something that, Web3 in general that we're kind of losing focus on is what we're shooting for. We want to have it decentralized. We want to have a community vote versus one person or a multi-sig making the decisions. So I think that's one big factor that, a lot of people overlook of what's being built here.
Super important, man. Yeah. And I think, I'm gonna reiterate just to highlight this sort of bridge, and it helps to also explain the purpose of Celeste. So if I should really get a really simple infographic, and I'll do it maybe for another stream, but as Billy mentioned, if you look at Snapshot, so if you're following us for the first hour, or you're somebody who watches the show that with the headlines that Edu brings on, and we look at all these different proposals that are passing, and today we actually had one that was being challenged, and all this, all those proposals that pass on Snapshot. So between the passage of that Snapshot proposal and the release of funds to a designated wallet address to like get that work done, or whatever the thing is, there lies a multisig, right? Which is, has to be signed by other humans to actually carry out the will expressed by the community at Snapshot. So as Billy said, the difference here for Gardens is that once the proposal executes, the dispersal of funds is automated. And that becomes, when you think about that, it sounds dangerous, right? Because then you could just have somebody come over and just drain the common pool. And this is why Celeste exists. Celeste is the governance backstop for the entire system. It is a fork of Aragon Court, but Bright ID has been integrated into Celeste, and I believe also into Gardens. I'm not sure about that, Billy, but the significance there being that you create a Sybil-resistant court, more or less, right? Where if a proposal is malicious and is doing something bad and gets challenged and gets elevated to Celeste, then it is essentially an arbitration tool. It's a way for the community to protect itself. And so I'll give a brief overview about how Celeste works. And then again, Billy, if you have any additional comments or people have questions about this, feel free to drop any questions or comments in the One Hive TV channel here on the Discord or in either Twitch or YouTube, as always. So if you come to Celeste, and this is actually what we'll talk about for a little bit here and then probably wrap towards the end of this conversation today. If you're a honey holder, you can actually stake your honey in Celeste and earn yield. Right now, I'm not exactly sure what the percent is. The way I believe is around 25% APY, so it's nothing out of control. You'd earn honey for staking honey. But so you understand what it does, we'll get into this just briefly. So if you come to the dashboard, you'll connect your wallet, and let me make sure that I have the right wallet connected here, and then I'll be able to walk you through a little more detail. Give me just a sec. Yeah, I'm having some issues with the wallet connect. Give me just a second here. Make sure that we're... Here we go. Okay. So when you first come to Celeste and connect your wallet, if it's your first time there, you will be greeted by this modal that asks for your email. Now, this is something that is non-conventional in crypto. So again, I just kind of want to explain why this is here. And the people at One Hive would not be asking for people's emails here if it wasn't in their interest. In other words, there is no There's nothing malicious intent. Essentially, if you stake your honey here, okay, and you participate in this protocol, you are agreeing to help the community as a potential juror. Okay, I want to just pause there for a second, right? Like, essentially, if there is a proposal that threatens a DAO in the garden space, and it needs to be resolved, by participating in Celeste, you're agreeing to participate in that process. And if you get impaneled, right, then you want to make sure that you fulfill your responsibilities, which are not something enormous. They're not something incredibly complex. And right now, the general utilization of this tool, I think, is not where it will be in the future, in my opinion. Once the multi-sig becomes a regulatory liability, tools like this, I think, will become more widely used. Right now, I think we're sort of out ahead of the curve here. But the idea is you don't have to provide your email if you don't want to. The only reason that you would is that you can get pinged if you get impaneled. So basically, if you need to participate in resolving a dispute, if you put your email here, you will get notified should that happen. Because if you are pulled in to do this, then there are certain basic responsibilities that are required in order for you to continue to participate, in order to not to lose honey, basically. I think there's a certain portion that could be slashed. But we will just remove this for now. The way the interface works is it will show you your wallet balance. Of course, the wallet connected here does not have any honey. And you can, over here, you can activate. Okay, so you'll activate a balance, and then it will show over on the right-hand side. You will earn yield in the process, and then at the top here where it says activate honey to be an active keeper, once you activate honey, you will see up here the likely percent, or the percent likelihood that you would be required to participate in a dispute resolution. Right now, this protocol is limited to 30 honey. So this is an important thing to note, right? It's not possible for whales to participate. Essentially, it's a whale block, okay? And the combination between a 30 honey ceiling and a Sybil-resistant platform with Bright ID, again, is intended to create the best conflict resolution mechanism that we can have in place to backstop the absence of a multi-sig on the governance activity itself. Billy, what have I missed, man?
No, it's pretty straightforward. Basically, you don't have to have a lot of honey to play in the game, but you need a little bit. You got to show support from the community. You can't just be a random person, but you can't be a big baller and vote for yourself to pass it through. Basically, no inside deals in a sense.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's a good way to stake. This is essentially a single-sided staking for honey. But it's not charging you. Some of these protocols. I'm going to say this is financial advice. Are you ready? I'm going to give you financial advice. dApps that require you to pay a fee to get in and to get out, you probably shouldn't use them. But that's my personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people made a lot of money off that. That's not the way Celeste works, right? In other words, you're not paying a fee to get in and a fee to get out. You're not none of that stuff, right? But instead, if you're staking to earn honey, you're agreeing to participate in the protocol if needed, right? So it's something to learn a little bit about. Perhaps ask questions if you have them before you ape into it. But this is something that, again, is community run, and is really, I think, an interest. It's something that I think will become more and more relevant and utilized as we move forward. But again, to recap, you got symmetric finance, you got elk finance. Of course, you have governance rights that are granted by holding honey, and then you can participate in Celeste as well. And this is simply celeste.onehive.org. So either Gardens or Celeste can be accessed by adding the subdomain to the onehive.org web address.
I will put this on there, and I didn't truly appreciate what Celeste and what OneHive does. And so again, like I said, the last 2 weeks that I've been, discovering other DAOs and Twitter Spaces and everything that's out there. I mean, what the vision of what was designed was a true decentralization path of what Web3 is meant to be. basically right now I feel like we're losing the battle of Web 2 overtaking Web 3 because people are selling out for a few grand of money. Sign up with emails and sign up with this and sign, here's a little bit of bucks, and everybody's happy because they turned $100 into $1,000. But we've lost focus and the control of like what this is all about. So like if you're into decentralization, if you're into like really trying to make a difference of how things are done instead of doing the same thing over and over again, then definitely check out Honey, definitely check out Celeste and see what they're trying to do.
100%, man. Yeah, I'm actually, so I'm checking out chat here, and I see, Billy, you've taken on a couple of the questions there. If anybody else has anything they'd like to ask about, please feel free. Tenson, GM to you, man, for joining us on Twitch there. When you're asking about a one-to-one vote, not quite. Okay, so when it comes to gardens, the way that the garden voting, it's token voting similar to Snapshot. So it's not one-to-one, and different voters or different supporters, rather, if you think about it that way, because they're not up and down, right? If there are different people who can support a proposal with different quantities of tokens. So it's not to say that whales are irrelevant, and I got to be honest, like benevolent whales are amazing, like like it's just a different risk thing, right? Like this, I really think it's it's erroneous to like hate on whales, to be honest. But you got to protect against whales that would seek to do you wrong. Like that's the key, right? If you can get benevolent whales, awesome. Like that's let's be honest, folks. You want to see like any token that sees a serious price upside. At certain points, that's because it's critical. Look at Bitcoin right now. Is Terra saving us, Billy? Is Terra taking us to the moon? I don't know. All I'm saying is whales matter, folks, a lot. But it's both. It cuts both ways. In other words, a whale is neither good nor bad. They come in both. Like, and so, like, yes, you could have a whale that weighs in on a one hype proposal. But it would be very difficult for a whale just to quickly pass and run off with money should it be malicious, right? And even if a whale jumps in on a proposal, the conviction voting mechanism ensures that like it takes time for the proposal to pass according to the total amount of tokens that are in the common pool. And this is where some of the math becomes a little more complex, but at the end of the day, it's designed to be community driven and like whale and malevolent whale resistance. Would you agree, Billy?
Yes, exactly. That's kind of the whole purpose of the whole thing. But you know what? Whales are good if I'm riding the wave,
That's right, man. That's right. Hey, or I mean, look, a proposal will pass faster if whales support it. Just so we're clear, everybody, right? Like this is not something that is somehow flattening everything. And I don't know if that would be a good thing, even if it could. I don't know. But these are always like these are tough questions to answer, let alone like solve for in the real world. Yeah.
It's a tough question or a tough puzzle to solve. I mean, these are worldwide questions. If you could solve this, and you basically discovered world peace.
That's funny. Yeah, the world peace. Amen to that. I like killer whales. Reduction of killer whales to the DAO space. Tencent, I enjoy that. We're gonna have to read that. That's a nice tweet. I like concise, compelling things. Very nice. Yeah, we actually I did a video on Celeste. There were a couple actually too that were done there on the One Hive YouTube page. And like when I go back and watch it now, I cringe really hard. But it's still like hesitate to share it. It's educational. It's very amateur film work, but I did the best I could. It's I'll link it up here if you want to learn a little bit more about gardens. Like the other thing is, it is kind of a primitive, like the Celeste is rather. In other words, it could be integrated with different things. Like it doesn't just have to be a governance integration, right, Billy? I mean, you can integrate the tool with futures markets or different types of DeFi.
Yeah, theoretically, yes. Yeah, you have to. There's still some more tooling that needs to be done and touched up on. But yeah, I mean, having it having it be like a Lego block would be the best example. Once that gets set up to be able to just be moving around and then use it for different markets, I think that's when it would really blow up.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can see if again, as I said, in the future, if the multi-sig becomes a much more, if people are genuinely trying to do things in a decentralized way, having these backstops, and I'm sure there will be others, right? It seems like a really important piece of critical infrastructure. Let's see. We also got questions in chat. Let's see. All right, well, it is a little bit after the bottom of the hour here. Give it a little overview, right, of sort of a little bit what we're up to here. And I know that Dosh Solar and some others, we're going to do some, One Hive onboarding show during the week as well. I neglected to confirm the time on that. If either of you guys could, if you want to hop on stage or let us know in the One Hive TV chat channel, we can share that with the good folks who have joined us here today. And the POAPs I know are being distributed. Really appreciate that, my man. And let me see if I can share the word, or if I'm not allowed to. I have to ask the boss. All right, everybody, we're waiting to hear back from that. Again, I'm going to ask folks if you have any royalty-free music that you enjoy and you like to share and you like us to share with the world. Don't hesitate to drop a link on the One Hive TV channel here in Discord or on YouTube or Twitch there. We're looking for some good stuff so we don't run into trouble with the peeps there. I certainly don't mean to. I'm actually a musician by trade, like not professionally, but used to play a lot, and certainly don't want to disrespect people's IP. Just sharing good tunes, but I don't want us to run into trouble on YouTube. Okay, so I am from the POAP Master here. POAP's had some troubles from time to time, and not because they have issues, really. POAP is amazing, right? They're just in super high demand, and their systems are always like with pedal to the metal. And so the secret word right now is not ready to be shared, but Rohit has got screenshots of the Discord, and he is going to be destroying secret word to people. So don't worry, you will receive your POAP there. Please, again, reminder, head over to YouTube and Twitch to subscribe, follow, because we will be doing the show fully on those two channels, probably at some point in the future. And we may be migrating out of the One Hive Discord, point being. So make sure you follow on those two channels. We're going to be experimenting with, well, Billy, what do you think, man? Are you able to try that Twitter Spaces tomorrow? I think there's like a 600 person like minimum or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure like how it works, because I'm not sure we have to do it from a phone or how you want to host it. I figured we'd do it through the One Hive TV Spaces. We can always test it out beforehand just to see how it works, but yeah, I don't know how it works through desktop. I've only done it through cell phone.
Okay, right on. Well, let's put it this way: if you can open the space and we can do it for myself, and we can make it happen. But we'll figure it out, everybody. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow is 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. Catch Billy and I. We're going to be talking. Billy's taking off the suit, right, man? Tomorrow.
Yeah, get a drink, take some meds and relax, because I got a lot of shit talking to do.
Yeah, with that in mind, folks, check us out tomorrow. We got Solar and Dosh doing the NFT gaming at 3 p.m. On Wednesday. And yeah, stay in touch, folks. Check out onehive.org, onehive.org, Twitter. Check us out on Twitter, Twitch. Welcome, GM, everybody. POAPs being sent out. Thanks again, Billy, for joining us today, and we will see you tomorrow, buddy.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Cheers, everybody. Take care.